podcast. So I was making a Korean video about house hacking. I should have started with English version first, but anyways, you've heard about house hacking, right? And I'll just give you a few important key points that might give you an idea of doing house hacking yourself. So basic idea is that when you own a home, when you buy your next home, you're not selling your first home and you buy your next home. So when you buy your next home, you end up having two homes, two single family or two condos or whatever that might be. So you end up doing that and you do that again by third and fourth and fifth homes without selling first, second, third, and fourth. So the strategy is really moving into your next property as your primary home without selling your current home, and you keep doing that. And I've seen some people, it's kind of like it's an old concept, but people now kind of put a name like called house hacking pretty recently. And young people are doing that right now. I wish I knew when I was younger, but let's dive into the important part now. If you're thinking about house hacking, so this is for people who already own a home or thinking about buying their first home. So if you're thinking about buying your first home, you might want to consider whether that's going to be a good investment property in the future or not. So you may pay attention to it, maybe get some benefit from it too. So the first question is your current home a good long-term investment? Now, how can you tell? I'll just give you the more like a practical example. In the Portland metro market, if you bought a home about 10 years ago in 2000, let's say 13, and you bought about $300,000 home at 4% interest rate, like 3-bedroom, 2 baths, in decent school neighborhood. Now, your house payment will be somewhere in like $2,000. And if that house can rent at about $2,700 a month, I would say that's a good investment property. You can actually make a few $100s when you turn that into an investment property. But if you bought a home, your payment is like $3,000 now, and you only get about $3,100 if you rent, that probably would not be a good investment property because you're going to be negative cash flowing. So this is a good talk for like first-time buyers who are thinking about buying their first home. If you're thinking about doing the house hacking in the future, buying a more like a modest home, like smaller home that can rent well. So I tell my first-time buyers who are thinking about house hacking, put your renter's cap on and go in there and see if you want to rent that property or not, a certain amount. And that would be a good indicator whether that's attractive to the renters or not. So let's say you have your current home kind of similar to what I described, a decent first-time home that can rent well, that can do a positive cash flow if you rent it out. Finding out how to actually buy your next home, buying your second house. Now, saving down payment is going to be one of the biggest difference. If you buy an investment property, you have to put down minimum 25% down payment. For a $500,000 home, that can be anywhere between like $150,000 you need to save up in order to buy your next investment property. But if you're buying as a primary home, you only put down 3.5%. You can. With the closing costs about $10,000 included, I mean, you're talking about $30,000 for your next home. If you have saved that up, you don't have to get like a cash out refi or line of equity type of thing to pull money out of your current home to use as a down payment. So let's say you saved up about $30,000 to buy a $500,000 home, you're pretty much good to go. The only thing that you need is the lease agreement. This is one of the most important thing I wanted to share. If you have the lease agreement, you already found the tenant for your current home. The bank, the mortgage lender, will give you a loan for your next home because your current house mortgage payment is going to be paid by the future tenant who already signed the lease agreement. This is the part that people don't think about often, thinking that you need to be able to afford both homes. But the reality is you could use the next tenant's, your future tenant's lease agreement. I think this is pretty amazing. In my opinion, compared to South Korea, United States is so much better for the investors. And we have something called the 1031 exchange too, which you can exchange up the property and delay paying the capital gain tax. But this, I think, is, if you are thinking about investing in real estate, this is one of the best way to do it, in my opinion, without spending too much money, because you can leverage most of the value into a mortgage. There's no other asset class that I know the bank will lend you like 90% plus of the purchase price. So yeah, just ask yourself these two questions. Is your current home a good investment that can cash flow, that can rent well? The second question is, where can I get the down payment? If you saved up 3.5% or more, you are ready to go. If you have not, you may look into cash out refi or like a line of equity. But these are not the best option because of the high interest rate environment right now. But if your first home is already paid off, then it might be fine, because you're going to just add a little bit of mortgage to your free and clear home and use that down payment, use that toward the down payment to the next home. And then the next important step is to get the lease agreement on your current home so that you can get the mortgage for your second home. So that's the idea. I wish I knew this when I was younger. But when you have kids, it's much harder to do this. So when you're single or a young couple, this is a great thing to do and own a couple of homes. What's better than that? Be able to invest and use the compound effect, the real estate appreciation in the long term, and then maybe end up with the 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 homes. So thanks for watching Shawn Realty Show podcast here. This is kind of like a live form, but I hope you got some value out of this. And